Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and you want to know about how we're helping other accredited investors keep more of their income, go to firstgencp.com/going long.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And guess who I am? Yes, I'm your host, Billy Keels, and we're back once again. Today's another solo episode. These are one of the conversation types, I guess, that you've asked for. You want to hear more from me. And so we want to continue to give you more of what it is that you're looking for. Keep this relatively brief episode, but really want to share some of the things that either I see or things that I know that are going to help you to make a significant impact on getting to your goals and being able to do that much faster. And one of the things that we want to do in this kind of monologue episode is I want to continue to recognize you because our podcast continues to move up. I mentioned before, we're still in the top 1.5% of podcasts globally, literally, like from every single different type of podcast that's out there, largely because of you continuing to download the episodes, continuing to share them. And I want to recognize you for continuing to leave your honest written reviews. And remember, the podcast is listened to in over 30 countries. We continue to have tens of thousands of downloads. And because of that, I want to put your comments in front of everybody. And so if you want to leave your honest written review as well as rating, I'm going to start recognizing them here because I think it's the right thing to do because you've been taking your time and I want to recognize you and have you recognized in front of a global audience. And so today's comment comes from none other 88. And the comment is actually wonderful. First of all, let me just begin by saying that Billy is an amazing person, full of positive energy and an awesome host. Well, thank you so very much. If you haven't been a guest on his platform, you're missing out. His team is professional with quick responses, and overall is a pleasure to listen to my episode as well as past guests. You won't regret it. So none other 88, I appreciate that. And apparently you are a past guest, so that means a lot to hear that from you. And absolutely, I have a wonderful team. And without this team, we would not be at 230 plus episodes. You wouldn't continuously get the high quality, whether you're watching this on the video version or the audio version. The team is absolutely fantastic. And so everybody who is handling and working with our potential guest or with our guest to the final editing, absolutely fantastic team. So thank you very much once again, none other 88. And we appreciate the wonderful. And don't forget, if you want to have your comment read in front of a global audience, like I said, over 30 countries and tens of thousands of downloads, a lot of people are listening, just leave your honest written review as well as rating, and I'll make sure that I spend some time and talk about it. So the other thing, let's get into today's really brief conversation. And I want to commend you for continuing to make progress, right? You're clear at this point on where's the destination you want to go. You're understanding more about the different vehicles. How are you allocating the different resources? And one of the things that I've also recognized that even when you get clear on all these kinds of things, that you can have this tendency to maybe get stuck, or you don't necessarily want to move forward really, really quickly. But one of the things that I've recognized when you're progressing, you get to a certain point and you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, now how do I move even faster? And one of the things that I want to share with you is something that happened to me actually early on. And I'm going to share this like ninja secret for learning languages. Because a lot of times you're making progress and you're thinking, okay, well, yeah, but how do I actually go out and make this repeatable? And believe most of you know at this point in time, as I've been working and traveling throughout 86 countries and lived in Europe for the last 21 years, I've had a chance to learn 4 additional languages beside English. And so sometimes people are like, well, hang on a second, you started learning languages at 27, and so none of them were your native language, but what's your secret? So because you're part of the Going Long family, I'm going to share my secret with you. This is a secret that not a lot of people know, but I guess after I share it here, then a whole bunch of people are going to know. But I want you to understand the secret because it's really not a secret as long as if I can do it, you can definitely do it. And so one of the things that happens, right, is I know that where you're going, you know where you're going, you know that you have the right vehicles, you're allocating resources properly, but maybe you're not feeling confident. And that has a lot to do with maybe, in the beginning, I was not necessarily feeling confident with languages. Let me just tell you the story. So when I got to Paris in 2001, September 2001, I knew that I was accepted at a university. I knew where I was going to a university called the Sorbonne, as the time I said, but it's actually La Sorbonne. And so when I was accepted at that university in Paris, before I got there, I gave myself 3 clear objectives. Number 1, I wanted to learn more about French language and culture. That's why I was going there. Secondly, I wanted to learn more about wine, specifically red wine. And then lastly, I wanted to also understand how to salsa dance. Don't ask me why I came up with the last 2, but it's just 2 other things that I wanted to do, right? But what I knew that I wanted to do was I wanted to learn language and culture, but I also wanted to do other things that I, on this 1-year sabbatical, had been saying that I wanted to do, but I just kept putting it off. Like I remember going once and watching my mom. She was doing salsa dancing with a bunch of her friends because she loves dancing, and I didn't know how to dance. And then I saw some people dancing salsa, and I was like, wow, that was really cool. So I wanted to learn how to salsa dance. So when I moved to France, the thing that I recognized as I was going to class, like I really wanted to understand, like, how can I start salsa dancing? So I walked all around the center of Paris because that's where I was living. And I found a dance school. And when I went to the dance school, and I felt super uncomfortable because 1, I didn't even speak French. I didn't know how to speak well enough, and the language barrier, but I knew that I wanted to salsa dance. So I had to break through that fear barrier. I ended up going to this salsa dancing studio. It was in an area called Le Marais in Paris. And so it was fantastic because the thing is, I eventually got in and I started in the very basic beginners class, like débutant, as they said, like the basic beginners. And so when I was in the beginners class, the thing that happened was, guess what? I was in a class with a bunch of other people that also wanted to learn salsa, that had the very same basic level that I did. At the same time, because I was living in Paris, guess what? About 90% of the room was French speakers, French people. And the thing that happened was, yes, I was extremely uncomfortable because I remember even going in the very first class, I got there a couple minutes late. I went all the way to the back, or the teacher put me in the very front of the class. That was a kind of funny thing because I didn't speak the language and I didn't know how to salsa dance. But the fact of the matter was I got a chance to look around. But then from there, what happened is I continued to go back to the salsa class. And when I was at the salsa class, going back week after week, eventually we started going out and salsa dancing in the evening. Now, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, Billy, but what does any of this have to do with, becoming more confident as an investor? Well, it's very similar to in the very beginning. You know whether or not you are an accredited investor. So you know which path you want to take. As you're taking your path, you know the destination that you want to get to. In the very same way that I knew that I wanted to learn French language and culture, I wanted to learn how to salsa dance, I wanted to learn more about wine, you have your objectives. You're figuring out which of the vehicles that you want to be able to use. So I was clear that I wanted the education. Afterwards, I was able to also take action. I felt very uncomfortable because I didn't speak the language, because I also didn't know how to salsa dance. But at the same time, I started meeting locals. Locals meaning people who already spoke the language, and we were on this path together to get better at salsa dancing. And so they became, in the very similar kind of way, that I like to help you understand that once you're clear on the path, it's about taking action. But in order to take action, you really need to make sure that you have 2 key elements before. Number 1, that you start to get your education in the same way that I was getting education on language at the Sorbonne to improve, which was the ultimate goal, language and culture. But then I had 2 things that were also helping me. That ability to want to learn how to salsa dance. I was meeting local people who were native French speakers and locals to help me understand more about the culture. This is the ninja part of the trick, which is not really even a trick. It's just sharing what my experience is. And then lastly, I took action. So if you think about where you want to be able to build confidence as well as expertise, it's a simple 3-step process. First of all, you need to get your education because you're clear on your goal, but start to get the basics. In the same way that I went to the Sorbonne to understand French language and culture, that was the basics for the education that I needed. Secondly, it's about making sure that you have accountability. Because if you say you're going to do something, it's always better if you have accountability. And guess what? If you have accountability from someone who is already better at where you want to go than where you're going, then go with someone who can provide you accountability. Hopefully that's clear. But basically, let me make it clear for you. My accountability were the friends that I was meeting that were local French speakers, natives that understood the French language and culture. And then thirdly, it's about taking action. Now, I was taking action. I was feeling uncomfortable. I was standing in front of the class. I was going out salsa dancing in the evenings. And guess what? In the beginning, it felt very uncomfortable. But because I knew I had my accountability partners, when I made the wrong step, they helped correct me. When I was saying the wrong thing, they helped to correct me. And then I was continuing to go back and get the education to learn, to have accountability partners, and then to go out and take action. It's a very simple 3-step process. When you get education, when you have your accountability partners, and you're taking action, that's going to help you become much more confident over time. The more that you repeat it, the faster you'll become confident. And then guess what? You're also going to go from theoretical knowledge to becoming an expert. Because although I'm not a native French speaker today, my French is pretty darn good. Most of my French friends tell me that at least. And so it's the same process that I've actually used to learn Italian, the same process I've used to learn Spanish, and the same process that I've used to learn Catalan. Always adapting it. But when you know what your goal is, that's a very simple 3-step process. I've just told the entire world the secret. So listen, I want you to go out. I want you to take action and apply the same thing for your investing. It's the exact same thing. Once you are clear on the destination that you want to go to, you start to become educated on the vehicles. Once you're educated on the vehicles, find the people that are experts in those vehicles so that you can also gain the expertise, the confidence that you need, and most importantly, take action on those vehicles. Don't just stay in the theory, get involved, take action. Sometimes you're going to have to take, or probably most of the times, you're going to be taking action on imperfect information, but go ahead, do it. That's the only way you're going to build confidence and expertise. So hopefully this little story has helped you. I've shared my secret. I just shared my entire soul with everybody across the globe. So hopefully this is helpful. And most importantly, I want you to take this story and use it to get closer to your goals as it relates to investing. And also too, for those of you who know you're an accredited investor, you want to find out more about things that we're doing. This is one of the other action points you can take. Go to firstgencp.com/going long, and we'll be able to connect with you there. And also, I want to hear your honest written reviews as well as your feedback. Let me know what you think about these conversations or these monologues more than that, because I want to continue to do them. I'm actually enjoying them, but I want to know, is this something that you like? Is this something that you're getting benefit from? And we'll continue to do that. So while you're working on your 3 steps, your education, you're finding your accountability and taking action, I'm going to be here preparing the very next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Trust that you enjoyed today's conversation. And once again, today's conversation was sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and want to find out more about how we're helping accredited investors to gain their personal freedom even faster, go to firstgencp.com/going long.